Customer not at homes, on some accounts, you will not get paid. That is why you got to know the ins and outs of contracts and know what you get paid for, know what you don't get paid for. All right, today is Monday, December 1st, a little past 8 a.m. Central Time. We just finished loading up at one Lowe's store location, and we actually have to go to another one to load up. So this is what you have a co-mingle for Lowe's accounts. We actually just put up to our first customer of the day's home. I'm have to go knock and see if they're available, but we only had 2 stops coming from this first Lowe's. The second Lowe's we go to, I think, has about 10 deliveries coming from it, and that's how we're getting our day started. And of course, this morning I checked the route before we even pull up to the store, but let me go ahead, knock on this customer's door, get this route started. But like I said, I did check the route this morning before we even got started, and funny story too, I'm going to mention in a second. I'm greeting the customer now and getting this. We got a grill delivery, so we're just dropping off a grill. Okay, today is Monday, December 1st, coming up on 6:30 p.m. Central Time. We are in the lab. You notice I'm not in the car, I'm not in the truck right now. We are where the magic happens. And just doing a business update. Of course, if you're new here, my name is Robert Rayner. I left my full-time mechanical engineering job to go and scale my final mile white glove trucking business. I ended up scaling all the way to 20 trucks, did $10 million in revenue, and now I'm actually going back and rebuilding the business from scratch, starting all over again and documenting the entire process along the way with better systems, better processes, and just a whole different view on the business. So, latest, since my last video, so much has changed, so much movement. Of course, we have switched and transitioned from running from the Lowe's XDT to Lowe's back of the store. Completely different scopes of work. Completely different scopes of work. That's the best way I can put it. We're going from a very, very heavy install account that is basically a high skilled trade for what we do to an account that is basically all drop off and very, very easy work and very, very sustainable, low risk work. That's the latest on that. So we actually just had a route today. It was a back of the store route. We finished that up. We ended up starting out at one store and picked up 2 stops, and then had a co-mingle with another Lowe's store in another city, where we picked up an additional 10 stops. Went through that, went through the little loadout process, had some stops where it was a pickup, it was supposed to be a delivery, it was supposed to be on a flatbed truck, all that little back and forth stuff that just comes with this business. And updates though, I actually was not even supposed to be in the truck today. I had one of my guys actually called out. This would be an excuse call out though. This would be an excuse call out. He was actually out of town for Thanksgiving holiday, and his flight back home to Nashville ended up getting canceled. So that's why he couldn't work today, but he gave me a heads up obviously last night, so I knew I was working today. It wasn't like a same morning call out, nothing like that. And ended up running the route. I ended up hopping in the helper seat today, actually. I was able to work my laptop while we were running the route, which was pretty nice. And with that, I actually ended up getting a quote for another driver today. The quote came back at $0. It was $0 to add this driver to my policy. Needless to say, if you've seen in my other videos, I've gotten some quotes to add drivers up to $10,000 additional for the year. So to get a driver with a 0 additional cost to my premium on my insurance policy, you better believe I'm fighting to get this dude in the door and on the team. And so, of course, that was some great news for the day. And of course, getting trucks running. I actually ended up also getting another truck rented out, so I don't have too many trucks sitting while I rebuild the business. I let them know, of course, it'll be probably 2 to 3 weeks. And I'll let them know at least a week in advance when I need the truck back, because we are growing and getting to it pretty quickly. So yeah, had a smooth out today. And even had a customer actually that was almost not at home. Things to note about accounts. Customer not at homes, on some accounts, you will not get paid. That is why you got to know the ins and outs of contracts and know what you get paid for, know what you don't get paid for. I'm a big fan of flat rate minimums, but I'm even more fan of guaranteed minimums. And if you hit 13, 14 stops, you get additional pay for each stop. Best account you can ever have. But obviously the Spirit account that we have here in Nashville is paid per stop. If the customer is not at home and you do not get the product delivered, you will not get paid. Very simple. It's black and white. I don't make the rules, but also, how I said, we had a commingle and went to another store. That store that we drove to, we do not get paid for that stop. Who makes this stuff up? I don't know. But of course, always be aware of stuff like that when you're going for these contracts, because you'll think you got a 15 stop day, but turns out you're going to 2 stores. You only got 12 stops. You're not only not making as much money as you think, but you're also losing money in time and diesel. Of course, something else, a part of getting paid per stop versus per truck or per day, you have to know, one, how much you're going to pay your guys for each account, and 2, how those different pay setups are going to affect your business. A lot of people get into this business and figure it out after the fact, or they get into the business and are not making money and they're wondering why. It's probably because they're paying their guys a flat rate when they're getting paid per stop on their contract. If you're paying your guys flat rate and your contract is paying you per stop, cut that out. I've been there, I've done that, and it is not beneficial for your guys or your business. I like to pay my guys per the contract. If the contract is paying me per day, I pay my guys, my driver and helper, per day. If the contract is paying me per stop, I'm going to pay my drivers and helpers per stop. Very simple. Very simple. But definitely highly recommend that for anybody in this space right now. If you're stuck at your 1 to 5 trucks and you're not making money, that might be a reason why. But something else to also note with that is how your stops 10 for the day versus 15 for the day on average is gonna affect the bottom line of your business. Some of y'all don't even know that. You don't know the difference between your numbers for if you making and doing 13 stops per day on average or doing 15 stops per day on average. You have got to know the ins and outs of your own business and how these routes and the pay is going to affect your bottom line. That number at the very, very bottom of your profit and loss, showing how much money you came out and made after paying all your expenses. You need to know exactly how that number is going to be affected by your contract, your stop count, and your average route pay. You got to know these things. But needless to say, that was basically that. And overall good day. Overall good day going into tomorrow, because I know the space at Spirit is very limited with the back of the store operations, and I've got some guys who have furniture experience. I do have my eyes on a furniture account here, and I'm so excited because we have, I think, 6 or 7 guys lined up for tomorrow. Tomorrow at 6 a.m., we're lined up to do basically a tour and a training for the Wayfair account here. And so the 3PL that I used to contract with, I'm getting back with them now. And of course, it's a very small world. So the people who are working with this 3PL now, I've actually known for years. And so it's going to be great to reconnect with them and be business partners again. So overall, just some really great stuff. The business is going in the exact direction that I wanted to right now. Also just scheduled a meeting with my assistant for tomorrow. It was kind of hard to get her originally integrated into the pipeline and the recruiting process, especially with all the new changes. I don't know if you watched my last video or not, but Lowe's now does the background checks for their accounts. So the 3PL doesn't handle them. So the process for background checks and drug screens for guys is very different now. And I kind of had to oversee it to see exactly how it was done so that I can now plug in somebody in my spot to fully take over and do all of my onboarding and recruiting. So now that I've got the pipeline basically built out and we've even gotten a few guys already through it, I'm going to take this off of my plate and have my assistant fully take over recruiting. That's going to open me up so much, and also not have us at these bottlenecks of having guys who are interested in working and sitting there waiting for me to text them or call them. This is how the business starts to grow and develop. But very much so looking forward to that. And also, now that we're running trucks, I'm so excited. I've actually rebuilt my dashboard I use to manage and track routes. The kick out of working on this stuff, and so happy to see how it has evolved and changed over time and how it's going to be used for the rest of the time I'm in business and going forward. But of course, that is it for this video. If you like what you see, you're stuck at 1 to 5 trucks and you're trying to figure out how to get to 6, 10, 20 trucks, be sure to hit the link in the description and join the Final Mile Hustle. Be sure to also like, comment, subscribe. Peace.